Hi everybody, this is Tina with Loving Life's Little Blessings. Welcome to Memory Keeping Friday and welcome to my wedding album series. I am sharing with you guys a project that I'm doing for a friend. I'm doing her wedding album. I shared with you guys last week kind of where the albums were and kind of what had been started and why I was doing it, and I got a lot of response from you guys. And the biggest question that I get asked is how to tackle a project that is so massive. So I wanted to share with you guys how we kind of got started. So the first thing we did is I pulled out some of these totes. I have a ton of these. You can get them at Michael's and Hobby Lobby, Joann's. I usually pick mine up when they're like 50% off, so they're literally like $4. These are great because they fit 12 by 12 paper. So any project that I'm working on that is going to have 12 by 12 paper, I know is going to fit in here. Sorry, you guys. And then also page protectors, Project Life page protectors, all of that fits in here. So we grabbed 2 of these because I knew that we were going to be breaking her album up into the wedding ceremony and reception and then everything that happened before. So I had originally grabbed 2 and that's kind of how we were splitting everything up. So the first thing that you want to do is gather all of the things you have. She had a binder that looked like this that had just some of her information, all of her research, different phone numbers, places that she went, just different information. So she had that, and that was really great. And then she had all of the photos. So she had over 300 photos of this ceremony that she narrowed down. So I had asked her to go through the photos and narrow down exactly what she would want, you know, basically what she would want in the album, and we would choose from those photos. So she literally brought over, I think when all was said and done, all of the photos that she had, we had around 800. Now, the great thing is that I know it seems overwhelming to think, well, how do you go through so many photos or how do you figure it out? So with a wedding, with anything that is an event, you can break it down in the way things happened. So we knew right away, we took those 800 photos and we separated all the ones from the wedding ceremony to everything before, getting ready. And so then that narrowed it down. And then for the ceremony part, the wedding ceremony and the reception afterwards, again, we just broke it down into chunks of what happened. There was the getting everything ready, the decorating. Then there was her getting ready with her bridesmaids and her mom was there. And then there were photos of the guys getting ready and some of the things they did. And then the very next thing was her walking out or everybody being seated. And then there was the ceremony part where they were getting married. So just think of things, break them down into chunks. So the thing that she did as we were preparing is she picked a couple designs that she wanted the album to feel like. So this, let's just open this up. So you can see in here that again, we have a chunk of stuff. We have invitations, we have cards. I knew I was going to do this for her before she got married, while she was in the process of it. So I asked for several items. I asked for an extra invitation. I said, can you set an extra invitation aside? Can you save business cards? All of those things. So I really was trying to start with the end, keep the end in mind of what I wanted to do, how I wanted to put the album together. So you can see right here are some extra engagement photos. So we had those sitting aside. These were in her actual invitations. In here, you will see that there are some balloons down here. There's some page protectors that we were working with. And then this is really the design of what she wanted. So I knew that we would need a cream colored cardstock. So I got very vanilla cardstock and had kept it. And then she picked out some designer paper, and it just happened to work out that there was some paper in one of our occasions catalog a couple years back that she really liked. So I just started buying several packs of it and started setting it aside. And then we also chose colors from Stampin' Up! Based on what would go. So we chose early espresso. So I have some 12 by 12 early espresso here. We chose a color that is actually no longer available. It is Poppy Parade. Matched her dresses, her bridesmaids dresses really, really well. So that is how we picked out the paper. And then I just started, again, buying a ton of it and making sure that I just was stockpiling it, okay? So then once we picked the colors, that's probably the easiest thing that you can do is we picked a handful of colors. It was Early Espresso, the Poppy Parade, the Very Vanilla, and then there was a couple tiny accent colors, but really we kept to those colors. So then that way I was able to choose embellishments. Now this is the container that has basically all of the embellishments that we're using. I threw in a Poppy Parade writer marker so that we would have that to do journaling. I have some pearls in here. This is stuff from her actual dress. So when she had her dress altered, it's the tag, the extra fabric, because we wanted to incorporate that. I took a 12 by 12 page protector and I just stuck all that in there so that it's all together. So when we go to do something with it, we're not looking for the tags or looking for the fabric. This all is that one event or item that we need. This stamp set is in here because her wedding shower invitation was actually designed with this stamp set. And then also it is part of the paper that has part of that design in it. So I wanted to make sure that we would keep that. I pulled out some antique brads and different little trinkets that I knew would match. Her photos, there's a chunk of photos that are still in here. And you can see that they're just in here. We kept them in here, so if I need filler, even though we've already sorted all of the photos into exactly where they need to be in the album, we kept the photos pulled out in case we wanted to use, in case we needed more photos. So instead of putting these back in the piles of photos that we had already organized, we kept these out. So that's the other important thing, is do all the photo sorting at once. So then that way when you're like, okay, this chunk of photos we don't want in the album or we don't want in the project, you can take those and put them away, get them away from the project so they don't get mixed back in. And then when you have a little chunk that you're not sure, that you're like, well, maybe we might have room for these, keep those aside. And then that way you're not searching through, because that's the most time consuming part of this, is organizing it to get it done. The actual putting the photos in albums and scrapbooking them, that's not going to take any time at all. It's just going to be the prep before you start. So that's why these photos are in here. This is really a mess because we just get it out and we dig through this and we put things together, and you know, it is a little bit of a mess. And then some of this stuff is actual ribbon that she used in her wedding, in the decorating of her wedding. This was on some favors that she had. Let's see, this was ribbon that we had at the time. It's a brand new roll that we had at the time, and I bought a roll and threw it in here. So that is what these two containers are. They're just all of those extra items that we get out when we're getting the project together, when we're working on it. So then let me just show you the albums really quick, and let me show you how we've set those up. And then next week I'm gonna dive in and start showing you guys some actual scrapbooking process videos. So here's the album, and I showed you guys this last week, and I think there was a little bit of confusion. Maybe I went through the album a little bit too quickly as to how things were sorted. So this is actually the ceremony and the reception, and I had mentioned that the first thing we did is decide the cardstock that we would use, or kind of the way we would put it together. So it starts with the bride getting ready. And so I knew that chunk, the getting ready and all the before photos, would all be in a dark cardstock. It would be in the early espresso. So that's one way that I used to break up the album. I did use the dividers. I used dividers in the other album, and I need to get dividers for this album. But the other way that I did is we broke it up by the color cardstock. So this chunk right here is all in early espresso, and it's all of the photos of everybody getting ready. So it's of her getting ready with her bridesmaids. It's of her getting her dress on. Some of the before photos that were taken. And then the guys getting ready. Some of the things the guys did right before everybody was ready. And then some posed photos. And then it goes into a lighter color cardstock, and this is the start of this ceremony. So then, as we are going through, you can see that this is everybody getting seated, the flower girls, bridesmaids, groomsmen coming down, her coming out, and then the actual ceremony part. And then it goes into the dark cardstock again for the posed photos. And these are the after the ceremony. They're with the parents. There are some of just her, like there was in the beginning, and then of the whole party together. So in the beginning, it was more separate photos. It was just photos of her, just photos of the groomsmen, just photos of the groom. This is now the whole wedding party is together. The bride and groom are together, and they're those photos of after they were married. So we did those, and then it ends, that part ends with this photo right here, which is going to be an enlargement. This photo is actually the thank you photo that they included in their thank you cards, okay? So that's going to be a big photo right here. And then now it goes into all of this is the reception. All of these photos now are the reception. So that's part of how we broke up the album. Now you can see that there are some pages that are done. This page is done. There's some that it's not done as far as there's no journaling, there's no embellishment. The photos are just actually on the pages. But the other thing that we did, and I did mention this last week, is any photos that we're enlarging, we put the 4x6 photo in that slot so that we would know that was an enlargement. We're using persnickety prints to do our enlargements. I chose them for two reasons. I chose them, one, because Becky Higgins talks about them and uses them, and I trust her opinion when it comes to photos. And then second, I chose them because I have seen other people say that they persnickety contacted them when their photo quality, when printing a photo, and if the photo quality wasn't good or the right, quality, they contacted them before printing them and sending them. And for this particular project, it's really important that the quality of the photos are the right quality for the enlargements, because they're going to be 12 by 12 enlargements. So we have photos in the place where enlargements are going to go, and that's just a marker for me so that I can remember, okay, a large photo is going to go there. All through the album, I've done both traditional and project lifestyle page protectors and inserts, okay? So what we did as we were going through this, the very next thing we did after we broke up the events and we did the cardstock, what we did is just started dropping photos in the page protectors themselves. And you can see that back here is really where there's a lot of that. So there's several photos here. So these two photos are the two photos that are going on this page. This is what took the longest, was us sitting together and deciding exactly where the photos were gonna go in the album. And then she's not a scrapbooker, so I really had to be able to say, okay, really these two photos are the only ones that are going to fit on this page. We can't put any other photos on here. So that helped her in knowing which photos to pick. So this is them with both sets of parents, and then this is her and her husband with her parents. Okay, so you can see here, we did the same thing. We just dropped the photos in. I did my best to kind of decide how many were going to go on one page. If I could, crop one down, if I couldn't crop it down, like all these are really photos that we're not going to cut down. So I'll have to make work on this side. So same thing here. Some of these, there's a lot of photos. So right here, I can guarantee you, obviously not all of these are going to fit because I can't trim any of these down. So these are all photos right here of basically the same thing. So here's where you get creative when you're doing like a wedding album. So here, these photos are all the same. They're all of the wedding party. Some of them are at different angles. Some of them were from different photographers. And then some of them were, not everybody has the greatest face. And this one, her cousin is talking, is giving direction or something, and her mouth is wide open. The two flower girls are talking, and, you know, they're kind of trying to tell them to do whatever. And then this one is one of the better ones, but her sister right next to her is looking down and helping the flower girls. Okay. This is one of the better ones as well, but one of the flower girls is looking away. So we picked out these 4 photos knowing that none of them are perfect. And each one of them, there's something that is off or that isn't liked, or somebody's not looking, or something's funny. And so what I did is we just put those in here, and I said when we get to this page, we will take a look at all of these photos, and I'll probably use this one right here with everybody on the stairs because for the most part, everybody's looking, smiling, everybody looks happy. And then we'll use one of these, and that will be great. But they're all in here. Then these are photos. Okay, so then it goes into the reception, and we just broke the reception down in the exact same way. So she had photos of people and their families holding a chalkboard and saying different things. She had people waiting to eat. There was kind of a mix-up with her food, and we ended up having to wait a long time. And it was really annoying to her. It's really funny. It's a story that has to go in here. So that's kind of how I broke up the reception. There's different tables, photos of different tables from different cameras and different people photographing. So we kind of mixed it up and did that. And then when we go through them, we'll see if we can crop the photos, cut them down, something like that. But to get everything in, we have some of her food. And then I think it keeps going. Everybody's eating, and then the food. I have a post-it note right here that says Candy's business card. Candy is her cousin, and she did the beautiful cupcakes and cookies and strawberries and stuff. And so back here, there's a lot of photos, and I happened to just I ran out of very vanilla 12 by 12 cardstock. And so this in here is just the end of the night. The dancing, the mom, the dad, all of that. And then here at the very end was some thank you cards that they did that I thought would be nice to include. So I hope that helps you guys to see how I broke up the project in a little bit more detail. I didn't give a lot of detail last week. So that is how I broke up both of the albums. This one was more time consuming and more involved because there were so many small moments that we had to make sure got into the album. So starting next week, I'm going to start sharing with you guys some of the process of pages that I'm putting together and some more of the actual scrapbooking. You can head over to my coordinating blog post right now, and you can see some photos of some pages that have already been put together. But from here on, there'll be more process videos. When I get the albums from Becky Higgins, I'll be sharing with you guys how I change all of that over and how they end up looking and what is happening. So thank you guys so much for coming by today, hanging out with me. If you have any questions about this project or what I'm doing with the project or anything, if you guys are doing a project like this, I want to know. I want to help you guys out. So just leave a comment down below in the YouTube comments, or you can go over to my coordinating blog post. You can keep in touch with me with email and ask questions. I'm happy to answer them. So thank you guys so much, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will talk to you again next week.
Hey, if you wanna play, make it about a place. It'll take creation.